Touchdown, Chargers! Welcome to a bye-week edition of Chargers Weekly, joined by Jahleel Addae. Very excited to dig into what has kind of got sideways here these last 2 weeks. You never want to go into a bye and a loss, let alone consecutive losses. After starting the season with consecutive wins, feeling great coming out of Carolina. Played an absolutely dominant game in all three phases. And then, unfortunately, Jahleel, the injury bug hits after a dominant first half in Pittsburgh. Offense looked good, busted play, held, or I should just say a bad coverage by Joey Porter led to a touchdown from Quentin. They hold the team to 87 yards, and then we got these last six quarters where we're kind of trying to figure it all out. So I'll just start by passing it over to you. What have you noticed? And I know we could say injuries. Let's just kind of say, yes, injuries are a huge issue. But kind of what have you noticed about what's happened with this offense these last six quarters that have led to a lack of scoring opportunities?
Well, first of all, you always want to go into a season saying you want to at least end the quarter 3-1 in each quarter. Obviously, this first quarter, the Chargers are 2-2. Bare injury, I think they'd be 3-1, 4-0 easy. So I like to look at it through the bright side. Big injuries, as we talked about, Matt. But what you see with the team is it's still fight. They played a Kansas City team and we're winning, right? All the way and tied in the fourth quarter up to about 5 minutes left in the game. And Patrick Mahomes made some plays, obviously, which what he does, is why he's Patrick Mahomes, right? But I don't want to look at it in a negative light. I want to look at it in a positive light, saying, you know what, 2-2 after the first quarter, got some injuries. You know what, we're going into a bye. And we get to get guys healthy. We get to look at the team that we're playing next, jump on some film and see what we can do to improve more. And I think they'll do that with the coaching staff and the players.
Yeah, I think, look, there are positives. And when we just kind of go back to the last, 6 years, think about the defense and how it was. Let's just stay in the Herbert era, right? Mm-hmm. So since 2020, Justin has orchestrated an offense that has put up points, that has put this team in a position to win, and they just could never get the defense right. Mm-hmm. And so I look at it as they're going to figure this out. That you've got Justin Herbert. He's got to cut that shot that he threw to JK that unfortunately was dropped. And the touchdown pass to Ladd, that's a reminder.
Hey, if JK what he is. If JK catches that, it's a whole different narrative right now, right? And
exactly.
It's not to harp on what JK didn't do, because obviously JK has been playing at an all-pro level all season. But if JK catches that pass up the sideline, we may be talking about the Chargers being 3-1, dethroning the Chiefs at home, right? Going into a bye week feeling good. So football's a game of inches. You can look at it on the bright side. You can look at it on the dark side. I like to look at it on the bright side, especially seeing how this team has come together. Being around this team in training camp, seeing the coaching staff, being behind those closed doors with them, and seeing how much they care for the players, how they prepare, I think they'll come out of this bye rolling.
Yeah, and look, they're kind of the bigger point that I want to make is the defense is playing ball. Jesse Minter has got these guys playing. He's got them playing without Junior Colson. He's got them playing without Joey Bosa. He's got them playing without Derwin James. Yeah. That unit. And I get it. Rashee Rice came in with more targets, receptions, touchdowns, yards than the next three receivers combined. So you lose that immediately, and that's going to change the Chiefs' offense. But what I'm getting at is I believe in Jesse Minter. I believe in the system. I believe in the way the players are executing. And in back-to-back weeks now, it has been self-inflicted pre-snap or immediately at the snap penalties and miscues. Yeah. You get that interception, you catch the break with Finley touching, the player while he's out of bounds. And what happens? You immediately get just a cut block that's inexcusable that backs you up 15 yards. And now and that was just seemingly the whole game, where you get a positive play and it's one step forward, two steps back. And to me, Jahleel, you tell me, that's stuff that can be cleaned up. I want to believe that can be cleaned up.
Yeah, and we haven't seen it throughout the whole season. So it's not like it's repetitive. It's not something that it's not in their DNA. It's not something that they're doing week in, week out. It just happened to come against a team where you cannot help them. Look, the Kansas City Chiefs, money, I know, do not need help winning. Right. So in order to beat them, you have to play a squeaky clean game, offense, defense, and special teams. And that's not just executing the X's and O's. That's not having any self-inflicted wounds, self-inflicted penalties at the wrong time in the game. And we've seen that happen on Sunday. With that being said, all those things going wrong, no Derwin James, no Joey Bosa, right? A lot of key injuries out, even on the offensive line, and we've seen they
Yeah.
couldn't get the running game going. They still had a chance to win the game.
Yeah, and look, the offensive line struggled mightily, and it's a
Yeah.
good front. But I think the bigger issue, look, there's two issues. One, you've got two all pro tackles. You
Yep.
lose one, you can maybe sort of account for that and shift
Mhm.
protection and run away from. When you lose two, you look at, and I'll tell you, I tip my cap to Coach Harbaugh and to Coach Dev and Nick Hardwick and
Mhm.
Trey Pipkins has been a really good guard this year, a
Yes, he has.
really good guard. He has
Yes, he has.
struggled to tackle. He struggled to tackle in limited time. It's 8 dropbacks and 5 pressures in Pittsburgh. And it's almost like I wonder if Trey's just kind of got into this guard mentality now, and
It's
and I feel bad because he's
right.
played. I want to make sure I make that point. He has played really, really well at guard, and
He's been
the
a monster.
tackles were very leaky in that game.
He's been a monster at guard, and you kind of correlate it to defense, right? Guard is like the safety position, right? You have help around you. You're not really coming man to man
Right.
coverage. You can get some doubles when you need it. And that tackle spot, I always say it's like playing corner. You're on an island. It's the hardest position in football: tackle, quarterback, and corner. Right. So when you move, that's like moving a safety, right? Me, Lohi, Derwin, which they can cover really well, but they're not going to be able to cover as well as an Asante, as well as in a Christian Fulton, right? As well as a Jaw. So when you move a guy to the outside, that's a different kind of monster, and you've seen it happen. But like you said, I want to reiterate that Pipkins has been a monster on the inside. So
Yeah.
once they get those guys back healthy on the outside, I think he'll be able to slide back into his comfortable position. He'll be able to continue to do his thing.
Yeah, I think. Look, and I hope they're healthy. I hope that Rashawn with the pec and Joe with the knee are ready to come back in Week 6 against Denver. They're desperately needed. If they're not, though, and it's not fair to Sam Mustipher. I mean, he's on the practice squad. He's pressed into
Right.
action for the first time, but that was a real struggle. It was a
Mhm.
real struggle, and I wonder if they're going to try to figure out. And look, it's Chris Jones, man. The guy's got to deal
The
with Chris
best in the
Jones.
world.
So
The best
yeah,
in the world, money.
you're not dealing with Chris Jones every week moving
Right.
forward. So the extra 2 weeks, I think there's a bunch to unpack there, right?
Yeah.
Because I think DJ Chark's return is so desperately needed.
Yes.
They need someone to take the top off of a defense to open
Right.
this thing up. When you go back through the film, Jahleel, and you look, it's not 8, it's 9 guys in the box, and they are on their toes. And
Yeah.
there was just they had no concern. They did not have the slightest bit of concern about that ball getting over their heads. And you got to figure out a way to open this thing up.
Money, it's what we've been talking about, right? There's no clear cut wide receiver right now. That's wide receiver one. Obviously, Q has been doing this thing this year. Obviously, a big jump from last year. But if you're another team and you self scout, that's what teams do. They self scout during the bye week and they say, okay, let's look at what we don't do well, what we haven't done well. And when you look at it, if you're self scouting yourself as a Charger, you say we still don't have that clear cut number one. So what are teams going to do when they're playing us? They're going to put 8 guys in the box, 9 guys in the box, and they're going to say, you know what? Your receivers can't beat our DBs one-on-one. We're going to play man-to-man on the outside. We're going to pressure Herbert when it's a pass. And when it's a run, we're going to stack the box. You only have so many guys that can block, right? There's only
Right.
5 guys, maybe 6 with the tight end, 7, depending on what personnel you're in. But those guys are stacking the box 8, 9. They're saying, we dare you to run the ball, right? The first 3 weeks, you guys have been monstrous on the ground. And we're going to go in the game and say, we're not going to let the one thing that the Chargers do well beat us, and that's running the ball. And that's what the Chiefs did a really good job of.
Yeah, and I think there's also sort of the other side of that, which is, hey, if you stack the box, you can get them big runs ripped off if you block it up right. And they were designed runs, and they were comfortable with the 9 guys in the box. And there's a 6 offensive lineman, and it's either 21 or 22,
Right.
with the offensive lineman, and they can't get through. They
Right.
weren't able to get past. They just could not block it up or scheme it up. And I think that's what people forget is when you think about tackles. I think everybody just sort of focuses on pass protection, and you don't
Mhm.
focus on how much those guys are doing in the run games to
Yep.
spring those 40-yard runs for JK, to open those things up for 15s and 20s, to now get them to back off, because it works. It's not just against the pass. You get
Right.
gashed in the run game and you've got no help behind you, and now they're ripping off those 40s. Okay, well, now they got to back out as well. And both things, unfortunately, have come undone. I think the one thing I'll ask you, Jahleel, is do you think there's enough balance, or do you do you think coming out of this bye, we're going to start to see Herbert? The guy's not throwing for over 180 yards in a
I know.
game, and it's Justin Herbert. Do you
It's
think we're going to
Herbert.
start to see a little bit more in the passing game to just try to get this thing to open up again?
I think you let him let it rip. But I don't want to veer away from the run game because has been the formula of success so far for this offense. That's what G Rowe is known for, running the ball. But you do have a star-studded quarterback behind Senator Justin Herbert, who we're used to him throwing 300, 400-yard games, right? But I think you got to soon let him start opening up just a little bit more, right? I love JK. I love Edwards. I love what they do with the running game, and it does free up Herbert when it's time to pass. But listen, we're going to go into the game in 2 weeks against the Broncos, and they're going to watch the film. They're going to do it's a copycat league. Okay. They're going to do exactly what the Chiefs did as far as stacking the box and making sure, hey, these guys don't get a cloud of dust in the run game. So Herbert has to drop back and he has to start letting that ball rip. And I think what they have to do on offense is if you don't think that your wide receivers can win those one-on-one matchups, right? Just lining them up in a 3-by-1 or 2-by-2. You have to start getting creative. You have to get guys in the backfield, motion them out. So you getting different looks, right? You're mixing it up on the personnel side, doing stacks, doing bunches so guys can get pressed and get easy releases off the ball. But they have to, in the pass game, start to get a little bit more creative to let Herbert start to let that thing rip. They have to do it. They have to do it. Why? One, because it's Justin Herbert and he is a big time thrower. Two, if you do that, now you force defenses to back out of the 9 to 8 man boxes, get to the 2 high look or 2 safeties, which creates a soft box. Now you can get back to your running game and you can control the clock.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting because, man, they came out and it was exactly what you described, right? Greg Roman he was pulling out everything from his bag. I mean, Ladd was in motion on nearly every single play, and it wasn't just jet sweep. It's orbit motion. It's a double. It's a reverse. It's a tight end screen to Disley for 20 yards. And man, they were so off balance. And it was the chess match was, Greg Roman 1, Steve Spagnuolo 0 on that opening drive after they forced that fumble. And it's like, okay, here we go. This is it. This is how you're going to have to scheme these guys open.
Sure.
And look, Ladd's a weapon, man. Ladd, he gets it. That dude has got wiggle every single time. He's got that little spin out of the first catch. He made Tranquil miss on that one play where he picked up an extra 15 yards. He's got that little cross on a drive starter that unfortunately was derailed by penalties that asked Cameron Dicker to make a 55-yard field goal instead of a 45-yard field goal.
Sure.
So it's clear that there's complementary pieces here. You can make it happen. I love if this team, when you think about Greg Roman teams and you think about Vernon Davis, Delaney, or was it Delaney that was in San Francisco with him?
Delaney Walker.
Yeah. So you got those two guys. When you think about, what he's had in Baltimore, when Hayden Hurst was there and obviously with Mark there, like I think they need to figure that part out. Like the way this offense, you look at the middle of the field, man, and it is wide open. And it just feels like you need that special Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, that type of player to really sort of unlock this thing. Now, that could be Hayden Hurst, and maybe he's still dealing with that injury. It should be. He's still dealing with that injury. They tried to set up that screen to Stone Smart that got snuffed out because, Chris Jones just blew it up. But I know I'm kind of rambling here. I think what I'm getting at is we saw it. We saw it on that opening drive, man. There was so much going on, and the runs were effective, and the motion was working, and the eye candy was getting guys to bite, and guys were getting open. And I feel like just keep doing that, man. Sean McVay does it on every play. He does. Keep doing it.
So we always, as a defense, when I was playing, you always go into the game. You said we have to be prepared for their first 15, and that's what we seen with G Rowe. His first 15, it was scripted. Everybody in the building during the week knows what the first 15 is going to be like. If you're there at practice and you watch practice, the first 15, what you see in practice, what you're going to see on Sundays in the game, and they rep it, and that's why they look so smooth, look like a smooth operated machine, right? But then once the first 15 is done, now it's okay. Now I got to get into my game plan. Now I got to get into my game plan on certain down and distances, what personnel they like, when do they like to blitz, when do they like to run pressures, when do they like to play too high, when do they like to stack the box, and then that's when the chess match starts. After the first 15, when the scripts are done, that's when the chess match starts. And I think that's where they struggle just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Not being able to get the ball rolling after the first 15 and get more explosive plays that they wanted in the game. And when you play Patrick Mahomes, listen, Matt, you know, like I know personally, you can not only score 10 points to beat him, right? No matter
Right.
how good your defense is, that guy finds a way. You have to light up the scoreboard when you're playing a guy like him. And the Chargers have it. They have it, what it takes on offense. They have it in Justin Herbert to light up the scoreboard. And if they light up the scoreboard and the way the defense is playing, the way that Dicker's kicking the ball, listen, when they play the Chiefs again and their next opponent, the Broncos, come in, I expect them to steamroll them.
Yeah. Look, I think it's interesting, right? Because the throw that he made to Xavier Worthy for 54 yards,
Yeah.
that was the first touchdown pass that Mahomes has had over 50 yards since 2022. Like it's wild to think, but I almost feel like we're still, and I just look at their first 4 games, right, Jahleel? Like especially the last 2. I look at the way the Falcons played them. I look at the way the Bengals played them, and those 2 teams should have won that game.
100%.
Like they should have won those games. But I think we're all, and I go and I bring it up to set this up, is that 4th down. Hey man, we struggled to get the ball down here. Let's go for the touchdown. And I think that's sort of the old thinking with Patrick Mahomes, like touchdowns, not field goals. And it's like, well, it's a one play offense, man. This team has scored on a 54-yard, 8-second, one play drive. Other than that, you have snuffed them out. They got nothing going. Maybe give your defense the lead. You know, maybe the Falcons, they're down 5. It's a 4th and 5. They go kick the field goal. Now go down 2. There's 5 minutes left in the game. You have controlled that team, but I think we're all there's so much scar tissue there, right?
From the old Chiefs, the fireworks, the big explosive. Yeah. Listen, I've been on the wrong side of them, and I've been on the good side of them, right? So I understand the scars, right? So it's tough to say, but when you're watching what have you done for me lately, league? What have you done lately, league? And you are right. After they lost Tyreek Hill, his explosiveness down the field has really been Travis Kelce, and he's struggled this year, right? So it's really been Travis Kelce, the deep overs, the banana routes going over, then coming back out, right? Just scheming him to get open. But other than this year with Xavier Worthy, and then obviously them drafted Rasheed Rice a couple years ago, they haven't really been that explosive when Tyreek's been out of the game. A lot of their games have been nail biters and close. So we seen that on Sunday. What you said, we seen it in the proof on Sunday. It was a nail biter. Offense wasn't that explosive. Credit to the defense, right? And I just think if our offense could have done a little bit more, it would have been a different outcome.
I think what's so frustrating, and again, this is me talking because I know Coach Harbaugh doesn't want to hear anybody saying this, but their tackles stink.
Yeah,
they stink. And they commit, and it was so great to finally see the calls on Jawan Taylor. He is a walking false start. The guy goes early and he got blown for 2 and he got a holding penalty. He holds on every play. And it was like, okay, good. Finally, you're kind of setting the tone here. Wanya Morris was leaky the whole game. Yeah. And just again, to kind of credit the defense, man, their game plan was so perfect. They never allowed Patrick to climb the pocket like you always do. They forced him out. You got to force him out to the edges. You cannot allow him to kind of operate and climb that pocket. That's when he crushes you. And they did that the whole game. Thule was exceptional in this game. And so I think that's the frustrating part. It's like you said, Jahleel, it's like they've got it. They had it against Justin Fields. They had it against Patrick Mahomes. And unfortunately, the offense just could not get over that hump to help them out. And I think, again, just sort of reiterate before we start looking forward, I think looking forward, that's a positive. That the defense, with how they have had to put together a lot of these bodies, you've got Poona Ford, new. You got Tito, who barely played last year, back. You've got Christian Fulton, brand new. You've got AJ Finley, first year as kind of that third safety. He's on the field for a ton of snaps. You had Tarheeb Still, rookie.
Gets a sack,
yeah, playing in his first game in the slot. Like, for all the new pieces that he's got and he's got to work with and try to get to gel, to see it play as well as it has,
he's doing well.
It's very encouraging, and that's why I just kind of feel like, all right, you got Justin Herbert on the other side. They're gonna figure that out, and I feel like that's a good thing to take away from the first 4 games going forward. Is feel like we really got a D, we've got a scheme, we've got a play caller, we've got the players that you feel good about, and now we just got to figure out how to get some guys healthy, open things up, and try to get this thing to balance out.
And Giro's learning Herbert just as Herbert's learning Giro, right? We got to remember these guys only been together for 4 games, and this is Herbert's third offensive coordinator in 5 seasons. Yeah. So they're still figuring out each other. They'll get the ball rolling, and then as a player, I remember looking at the schedule and being like, "When's our bye week? When's our bye week?" Right? Because as a player, you always want the bye week to kind of be in the middle of the season, towards the end, so you can get healthy and ramp up for the December schedule and make a strong push into the playoffs. But I know when this schedule came out, we were like, this is a little bit too early, but this is actually falling right in the hands of the Chargers with all those injuries and how beat up they are. So I think this bye week will be massive for them this year.
On Location, official hospitality partner of the NFL and the LA Chargers, offering Chargers fans the opportunity to lock in verified Super Bowl tickets and access to exclusive pregame parties with an official VIP ticket package. Take your pick from the best seats at Caesars Superdome, including the most coveted seats at the 50-yard line, and exclusive access from private pregame parties featuring big-name entertainment, chef-inspired food, and top-shelf bar to post-game field celebrations. Incredible experiences are coming in hot. 5-star hospitality. Go first class all the way from the moment you arrive in New Orleans. Enjoy personalized concierge services, excursion planning, reserved parking, a VIP gifting suite, and many more premier perks. Visit onlocationexp.com/SBLIX or call 877-373-5062 to secure your ticket packages today.
3-1 would have been huge. Would have been absolutely huge. And they were on track to get that third win in each of the last 2 games until the offense just shut down and could not score a point in the second half in either of these contests. They had 10-7 leads in both of them going into the second half, playing dominant football. You look at the next 6, and they do not play a team with a winning record. Denver, 2-2, Arizona, New Orleans, Cleveland, Tennessee, Cincinnati, Baltimore. So let's make it 7. Atlanta, I think, is 2-2 as well. So you're talking about opportunities, teams that are in the same boat they are, that are trying to figure it out, that have not staked their claim as being a great team in this league. And the opportunities are there. You know, I've got faith in Jesse Minter versus a rookie in Bo Nix. It's 100%. Clear that really it was just kind of a 1-week wow and a first half in Buffalo for Arizona, and how they've come crashing, back to earth. New Orleans, same thing. First 2 weeks, holy crap. Clint Kubiak's going to be a head coach, right? And now that's come crashing down. Cleveland is a complete mess right now, and people are talking about whether or not Stefanski's going to lose his job. So, Tennessee just had Mason Rudolph had to get a win, and they're talking about so it's lined up. It's definitely lined up for this team. Now, be careful. I don't want to think about what Carolina looked like when the Chargers left there on September. We stayed the week, but you know what I'm saying. When they walked out of the stadium. And now look at the last 2. They housed the Raiders, and they're trading punches with the Bengals. So things can change, and teams can improve. And
that's the NFL money. That's the NFL, right?
It is.
I remember in 2015, we went into Cleveland, and they were 0-15 at the time, and we were the first win of the season, right? So that just goes to tell you, like, you can't just roll at the end of the day, this is the NFL. Everybody's good. You can't just roll the ball out there, look at the record, and be like, you know what, these guys are 2-2. Listen, on Sundays, anything can happen. Everyone's fighting for their livelihood. Everyone's fighting for their job this season and next season. So when you look at those schedules, yes, they're very favorable in the Chargers' aspect of winning, right? Because of what they've done, how they've come crashing down, how it's slowed down a little bit for a lot of teams, but they still have to continue to put the work in. And I know with Jim Harbaugh as that head coach, being around him, he won't let them slack one bit, right? Every week they go in, they're going to be well prepared mentally, physically. Actually, Herb does a great job, in the weight room with those guys. You see the toughness of the team too, right? The toughness of the team looks different. Those trenches look different, and that's a lot of credit to Herb and what the strength and conditioning staff is doing over there. But one thing I will say the Chargers have to do: don't get derailed by these last 2 losses. Right? You guys are still a good team. Get guys healthy. Look forward. Obviously, the Broncos is a division game, and everyone gets hyped up for that. And it doesn't matter if they're 0-15. Doesn't matter if they're 15-0. When a division game comes, everyone's 0-0, and the bullets are going to fly. So be expecting that.
Yeah, especially in Denver. It's a tough place to play, man.
Tough.
It's not easy, man. It's the altitude, the crowd, and if you just go through the annals
Yeah.
it doesn't matter who's great and who's not. It feels like every single year the Chargers and Broncos split. It's just the strangest thing
It's strange
when you go through it.
when you're playing in that
Sometimes they'll win
altitude.
there and the Broncos will win here, but every year you go through it, so it almost never do you see a sweep from one side
Yeah.
over the other. But look, it's an easy bit of analysis, and but they need to get their tackles back. That's
For
just
sure.
that's the reality. They're too good. What Rashawn, because you heard what Coach had to say.
Mhm.
He said, "Look, I got to figure out a way to get Justin an extra half second, an extra
1000%.
second. We've got to figure out a way to do it." And to me, I'm sure that's priority number one on the offensive side.
Especially with him dealing with that high ankle sprain, money. Like that high ankle sprain, I'll tell you right now, I
It's there all
sprained
year,
my
right?
ankle in 2015 and I missed 5 games. Like they almost say it's almost better to break your ankle than to have a high ankle sprain. That's how bad it hurts. So just credit to Justin being out there with his 2 tackles out, right? Standing in the pocket and taking those hits. Because I'll tell you right now, that high ankle sprain is no joke.
Yeah. And I'm sure, as you can attest, you missed 5 games, and it still hurt the rest of the season. Like that's what everybody said. Like, dude,
The
that thing's with you
rest
all
of the
year.
season. The
Yeah.
rest of the season. Like it
And
doesn't
so-
go away. It goes away in the
No.
off season after you have rest and you treat it. But you're going to be dealing with that for the rest of the season. So
Yeah.
kudos to Justin,
And-
man. He's a tough guy.
And that was one of the things that there was a lot of pushback on social media and the talk shows and all that, because they're like, well, why not just sit him, man? Why not just rest him? You've got the bye. That gives him 3 weeks off. You've got no tackles. And then they come out and they get the loss. And it's like, see, you could have given him the extra week. To which my point is, yeah, but I get it. I get why Harbaugh's like, no, if Justin's good going out there and he's comfortable, we can win these games.
Right.
Like these are winnable games. And I think that's been proven, right? That they are winnable games. And that's why, and he wants to be out there. And I don't, is he doing more damage? No, he's not getting better. That's the one problem, but it's clear that he's been able to play with it. He had that 3rd and 1 where he does, he did the quarterback sneak. I haven't seen him sneak a ball in a year and a half. So,
right. And you sneak a ball with the high ankle sprain, you're good. And I tell you what, being around Justin, playing with Justin, I guarantee you the competitor in him told Harbaugh, like, listen, I'm playing. And how people are looking at it from one side, he was probably looking at it on the other side. Listen, I'm going to give it my all. This is Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, a division game at home. And we have to win this game. It's a big time game. Right. And if anything does happen, I do have a week and 2 weeks to rest. So I think that was more of his mindset going into the game, saying, hey, I'm going to put it on the line for my guys. And God forbid, if something makes my ankle get hurt any more than what it is, then I'm going to have 2 weeks to let it heal.
Yeah, and I'm going to lean on you for this, because I want to make sure it's not me, sitting in my fancy Herman Miller chair and my Travis Matthew polo judging people. But when you go back through the film, when you see a play like Josh Palmer's, where it's a situational play, and I'm not quite sure sort of what he was thinking when he goes to the ground, he catches that ball and he deliberately goes to the ground.
Right.
Kind of like, how do you dissect? Like, how is that broken down in film? Like, is that, hey, what was the call? Why did you go to the ground? What are we thinking here? We got a chance to get the first down at the 2. You dive down at the 4. How does that stuff all get unpacked?
Money, it's hard for me to answer that question because I'm not in those meetings, right? Obviously, like from the outside looking in, you would want him to try to get those extra yards, right, at the 2-yard line instead of going down. But you never know what was said in the meeting. You never know what was said in the huddle before the play, right? What they instructed him to do, if they instructed him to do that, or if he did that on his own. So that's kind of a sensitive subject for me to touch on because I'm not exactly sure what they told him to do, right? Sometimes during the week, we'll game plan something and we'll say we're going to do it this way. And then we get out into the game and they're attacking us a whole different way. Coach will come to the sideline and say, you know what? Technically, it's supposed to be done this way, but we're going to tweak it like this. So I can't really pinpoint what he was told, if he did that by himself or what happened there.
I'll say this too. One of the great things, and this is something I really do appreciate about Harbaugh, because I do think it's genuine. Sometimes you'll have coaches go out there and they'll immediately do I'll just say there's a certain guy that moved from the Midwest to the South and all of a sudden had an accent appear when he started rolling around. If you can figure out who that is.
Yes,
and
sir.
It's just so disingenuous when he hits the the lectern, and the first thing out of his mouth is, I just want to start first of all by saying this I got to be better. And then he goes in to dissect all the things his players went wrong, his players did wrong. It's like, yeah, that's that. I don't need that from you. You're calling out your players.
That's how you lose. That's how you lose the locker room.
Like for Harbaugh, I think it is genuine, and it does show that it's top of mind for him, and it's something that he's thought about, because he specifically said on that play, man, I got to challenge that because I'm burning the timeout anyway.
Right.
And so if I challenge it, I still get my timeout to get my team organized for the fourth down, and I get a chance to see if maybe Josh wasn't touched, and he gets the first down. So that was in the moment that he said that. And it's like, you could tell that was wearing on him, and it was hanging on him. And I think that's kind of why I brought the Josh thing up first, to show this on the back end. To me, that's him getting Josh's back. Like, hey,
100%.
Don't put this on Josh. This is my fault. I should have. I burned the timeout anyway, and that's a bad play by me. And I've got to be better game management to know, I can burn my timeout just by challenging. And now maybe I get lucky and we get the first down.
Right. And as a player, even if you make a mistake and then you hear your coach go on the record and say that that's on him, trust me, that goes a long way. I've been there before. It's happened to me. And coach has covered my butt, Anthony Lynn at the time. And it's like, you know what? I went to his office and I said, Coach, you know what? That was on me. I don't care if you would have put it on me. No, son. Listen, I'll take the blame. We're going to move forward. We're going to get better as a group. And when you hear something like that from your coach, like, you're balls to the walls for him, man. You'll run through a brick wall for him. And that's why those guys love Jim Harbaugh over there right now, because what he does is take the players back, has the players back, and he's all about them, right? He's never about self. He's all about team. He's all about his players. And when you hear the term a player's coach, that word gets thrown around loosely, right? And he's not a player's coach in the aspect of, we're going to take the day off and go to the movies, or we're going to cut reps down in practice, but he's going to make sure that he takes care of them in different ways. And that's one example right there.
Yeah, no doubt. And as he said, and like I said, it comes off as genuine because it's detailed. It's not, I got to be better. I didn't have these guys coached up right. But this guy was terrible, and you can't do that. And it's not that. It's him talking about penalties. Penalties are on me. Penalties are always on the coach. I've got to get these guys ready and play a cleaner game. It cannot be as sloppy as it was. And look, you look at this game and what happened? It did flip, right? Against Pittsburgh, it was defensive penalties that did them in. Right. In this game, it was offensive penalties. So you feel like, okay, we got it cleaned up on the defensive side. Now let's get it cleaned up on the offensive side. And again, you got essentially you've got three new starters, right? Because Pitt's got to kick out the tackle. Mustafa, who just got elevated from the practice squad, and Jamari Sawyer at left tackle. It's not easy, man. No. Against that front, Tershawn Wharton and Noddy and Chris Jones and
Mike Dana.
The amount of Dana. I think that was Dana out or was Noddy out? I think Dana was out.
Yeah.
But just the way Spagnuolo is constantly bringing pressure from the corner, from the linebacker, there's so much that's asked.
And people don't give Spagnuolo a lot of credit. Like, it's always the offense. Listen, they've won a lot of Super Bowls because of him. The defense had to come up clutch, and he's a really good defensive coordinator. And he does a really good job of being real consistent, right, in certain situations, and then switching up the look in certain situations and keeping you on your toes. So he does a good job, man. He's done a good job for a long time with those Chiefs.
Hey, listen, if Spagnuolo is he's just like 5'11" instead of 5'8", I think he's a head coach. I don't know how tall Mike Shanahan was. He's kind of one of the shorter guys that I remember.
Yeah, and I've always wondered why he hasn't got a head coaching opportunity. It's wild. I don't know if he's just comfortable there and he's like, this is my role and this is where I'm good at, right?
Yeah.
But
I feel like it's the press conference, man. I think it's can you win the presser? I think you walk in and he's standing next to Trevor Lawrence and he looks like he's a foot shorter and it's 100%. Just a weird look. But Spags is one of the best there is, man. And again, the Kansas City Chiefs catch a break because he's been running one of the best defenses in the league for 5 years and nobody's hiring him as a head coach.
He has.
And they should.
It's crazy. I've always thought that money. I'm like, why does this guy not get a shot? It's crazy.
Yeah. It is. All right, the Chiefs are behind us. Won't see him again until week 14. That is the first week of December. And, and up next is Denver, a team that has found it always cracks me up, right? Sean Payton, offensive genius, best play caller in the last 20 years. And no, that team's just playing defense like their hair's on
That was
fire,
back in
man.
the
And
day.
that's
That was back in the day.
right. That was back in the day. And now it's a team that, even though, it looks a little different, they still have, it's not the no-fly zone anymore. But, I
No,
mean, you look at
not
the
at all.
depth chart and you still got Patrick Surtain at one corner. You still have that front with DJ Jones and Zach Allen, and
Yep.
Benito is a solid, linebacker. Like, it's still a really good defensive unit. And I think,
100%.
instead of celebrating Sean Payton, we should be celebrating Vance Joseph for what he's got going over there, because that team has been incredibly stingy.
Yep. And Vance has done a good job for a long time. And like you said, when you have a rookie quarterback, there's one formula: you need a good defense. And that's what they're doing. And like you talked about, Patrick Surtain, one of the best corners, if not the best corner in the league. So listen, the wide receiver core is going to have their hands cut out for him with him. Obviously, I don't think he'll be traveling. He'll probably play one side of the field. But the way the defense is playing and the way Bo Nix is generating the offense as a rookie, you got to say, listen, this team's a threat, right? This team's obviously not all in be all, right? Super Bowl champions right now in October, but they're a team that could be a threat to you, obviously playing at home in Denver. And you mentioned the altitude. That altitude is real. I remember getting there in warm-ups, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make it. Like, money, I'm warming up and my chest is coming out of my pads. Like, it's real.
Yeah.
It's real. And
Yeah.
that first drive, those first 15 I told you about, they know the first 15 they're doing. And they're going at a tempo and they're used to that altitude. And you're on defense and you're sucking wind and you're looking to the sideline and your calls are coming in late. And listen, it's not an easy place to play.
Yeah, I mean, look, the defense the last 3 weeks has allowed 3, 7, and 9 points. Oh, I'm sorry, 13. 13 points, 7 points, 9 points. They lost to the Steelers 13-6. That Buccaneers team had been moving. You just saw what they did last week. They were putting up points. They held them to 7 points. And Aaron Rodgers coming off his biggest win of the year and holds them to 9. So now granted, there was some heavy rains and some weather there. But, the Chargers are coming off a bye. The Broncos are not. Got to take advantage of that. You've got 2 weeks to get ready for your opponent. They're going to be coming off a 1:00 game against the Raiders, which will be a fight, a street fight, a rock fight, because it's a divisional game, and you got to be able to take advantage of that. And then the next week, you end up getting a bit of a break because you get the Cardinals on a Monday night. So you do get that extra. So not only do you get that extra day, not only do you get the bye week here, you get that extra day of rest. To continue to get a little bit more healthy. You're coming off the altitude. It's a divisional game. It's nice to have that Monday nighter there as well. So,
for sure.
Yeah. Look, it's 2-2. I think you hit it on the head, Jahleel. Would be nice to be 3-1, but for me, I'll just kind of wrap it with some, like you said, stay positive. Mm-hmm. And the positives are Q and Ladd are solid wide receivers, 100%. Man. Q has taken the step. Ladd looks like he could end up with, I know it's easy because it's a white guy, but he just looks so much like Julian Edelman out there, man. Just the shake, and you know what I mean. Like it looks like him. The way he moves.
I've probably said it before, and I don't like to say it because he's a Raider, but a little bit of Hunter Renfrow. And don't get it twisted. Hunter Renfrow was a beast in this league. I'm surprised.
Third down machine.
Yeah, like slot choice, line him up, stack, do read options, right? Get him off the ball. And it's the way you use that guy. Slants, pivots. I think they'll start to implement that more and more in his route tree, man. You'll see him get going.
Yeah, I should go back and just watch, but it's the way, like, there was the play against Drew Tranquill where he ended up getting the extra 10, 15 yards. That was Edelman to a T. You would get that ball and you would just see him whip that linebacker off him and then peel out and head down the sideline for an extra 10, 15, breaking ankles in the middle of the field with that shimmy, just a beautiful, crisp route runner. So I'm very excited through 4 weeks about what McConkey's doing. I don't think there's any question Q, has certainly taken the next step and is turning into a solid receiver. And I know it sounds crazy to think because this is his, fourth team, but I don't think you can underestimate or undersell what I think DJ Chark can bring to this team. He's a 4-3 guy, and he is if you go back and you look at his explosives in Carolina last year, as disastrous as that season was for them, he's creating separation. He's winning 50-50 balls.
He was a bright spot.
Just goes. Just run those nines, man.
When he's back in the game, him being that threat of just running the 9 route creates a lot of voided zones, underneath, right? And the first level, the second level for Q to catch and run, for Ladd to run his little whip routes. And speaking of Ladd, people think because the guy's quick, he's not necessarily fast. Ladd's a 4.3, 4.4 guy.
Yeah.
Right? Don't forget, he has take off the top speed as well. But having Chark come back, I agree with you 100%. He'll be a deep threat that will allow the playbook to open up more. And that's a guy that Justin Herbert would love to throw the deep ball to and let it rip.
Yeah, and also, look, it would have been great to have Derwin because, I think 100%. You have Derwin in that game, and you're talking about those Kelsey reps that he's so familiar with that you just kind of, as Jesse Minter said, we're going to deploy Derwin in a different way every game. I think that's once Rashee Rice goes down, you just say, hey, Derwin, 87. That's you. Where he goes, you go.
Yeah.
And so I think they were missing that. But the positive to come out of that, it's not Derwin, but the absence of Ja Taylor. Thought he played a really solid game.
He really did.
To get him some reps and to get him a half sack and to get him some passes defensed, I thought was a really good opportunity for the young man. Christian Fulton continues. Yeah. Listen,
we got a guy that we wish he would have. It happens.
It happens. The guy's a 4.22 guy. It happens, and whatever. Otherwise, he's got the interception, and it's another good game from him. I feel very comfortable with him on one of the outside corners, and that's only going to get better. So, that's me taking a lot of the positives. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Jahleel, but that's kind of where I'm at with all this.
No, I think that's the way you look at it. I'm just impressed by the team. Like, obviously 2-2, but you would rather them be 3-1, what it easily could have been. But the way they fought, the way these games have been close, especially no one gave them a chance against the Chiefs with all those injuries and Patrick Mahomes coming in town. Going into bye week, you get to get fresh. You get to watch a lot of film, 2 weeks of film on the Broncos. So mentally, these guys should be really, really sharp going into the game in 2 weeks. So I think that'll be a big advantage for them. So I'm excited, man. I kind of mad that it's a bye week this early because I'm itching to see them play again, especially after a loss. You always want to get that bad taste out of your mouth. But I think it'll be good for them in the long run, and I'm excited to see them step back on the field.
Yeah, well, 2-2 in the first quadrant. You want that 3-1. The next one will not be easy. It's 3 road games out of their 4. So at Denver, at Arizona, home against the Saints, at Cleveland. Definitely not an easy task to try to go 3-1 when 3 of the games are on the road. But you feel like if you can get healthy, this team is playing some darn good football. And the NFL parity rules, man. These are close games. They're almost always one-score games. And, you give yourself an opportunity to win, and you feel good about who you have, as your trigger man at quarterback and who you got on that defense and the guy calling the plays. So,
Road Warriors, we need Road Warriors, man. Road Warriors.
Exactly right. There you go. Exactly right. Throw on Mad Max, maybe do the,
Go get it.
Exactly. Everybody knows Fury Road, but they don't know the Road Warrior, the original one.
The original.
Creepy and weird as that thing was. Maybe that's what we screen on the flight out there. Always appreciate it, Jahleel.
Yes, likewise, man. It's an honor.
Back to your protein shake and your glass of water while I'm drinking just, the diuretic, the coffee.
Hey, I love that. I love that mug, man. I need me a mug like that.
Exactly. There you go. The kids that always give you the many photos. Exactly right. All right. Well, we appreciate it, Jahleel. Enjoy the bye week, and we'll be back next week to preview that Broncos game a little bit more, dig into the health of this team, and get you ready for Week 6. Otherwise, everybody, we certainly appreciate you downloading, listening. If you can, write a review. If you don't mind rating, that helps us grow everything. Leave a comment on YouTube. We love to engage and answer some of your questions. If you got anything there, feel free to do it that way if you're consuming it through the video portion as well. So thanks, everybody. And we'll be back next week.